Greetings, my name's Philip. I'm really excited this evening, this afternoon, wherever you are, whatever time it is, today to be joined by Santos Bonacci, one of the greatest teachers, astrologers, astrotheologists in the land. Thank you so much for joining us once again, Santos.
Thank you, Daniel, Philip. Appreciate it, brother. Good to be back with you.
Yeah, man. It's always an
lovely
honor to connect with you. You are such an inspiration. I've watched so many of your presentations and I'm always learning something new. You always have a different spin, a different take on things. And it's always nuggets and pearls, nuggets of gold and pearls of wisdom. So how are you doing?
Thank you, brother. Thank you. I'm doing really well. I'm enjoying the beautiful Californian weather. It's blue skies every day. We've only had one shower overnight, light shower, since I've been here, since August the 11th. It's now the 17th of September. So I'm really enjoying that. I'm meditating in the forest on an incline, head down, for the blood to reach the head and stimulate the pineal gland. And I do a daily meditation where I stare at the canopy and go into a trance and cause the pineal gland to pulsate.
Brilliant.
And you can feel it humming. And the forest enables that because it's very, very still. And the redwoods are glorious. They are truly great souls, ancient souls of mighty, mighty spirits, incarnated. The Aborigines in Australia would never chop down a tree in its entirety, only use the wood of fallen branches and things like that. They honoured the trees as spirits. They could see the soul of the spirit. And I've always taught that trees are Tauruses, Tauri with a Taurunk and a root, which is backwards for Taur, which is the roots of the grounding. Taurus has to have a grounding, so the grounding is backwards, root. The roots are earthy. So that's what, if you look at trees, you will see a Taurus field. All trees show the branches are like the veins, the nervous system of the body. It's the tree of life in you. So when you meditate in forests that are old and wise, you induce or intake that consciousness. So that's been very, very helpful for my healing. I've also, you would have known about my itching problem that I've had for years, which pretty much got worse and worse every year up until this year. In June, I took some dewormer, animal dewormer called fenbenzidole and ivermectin together, or in the same protocol, but not together. And these are science's best parasite problem eliminator, put it that way. So they truly are unique. And I eliminated the itching.
That's fantastic.
In the skin.
Congratulations.
And so,
that must be such a relief.
Thanks, brother. Oh, at one stage there in May, June, I was like, it was so intense that I was having 3 baths a night. I didn't know what it was because I did so many protocols. So I was starting to believe that it was going to be a lifelong, just what do they call them? Syndrome, not a disease. Syndromes are different to diseases. I've had plenty of syndromes. I've had temporomandibular joint syndrome. I've had chronic fatigue syndrome and irritable bowel syndrome. I've had those pretty much all my life. And now I realize that it's parasites. It was parasitic. So when people go on this protocol, they eliminate parasites. Now, if you have worms, you'll see them instantly. And the thing is, I didn't have worms. So it indicates that the parasites that were in my body were microscopic, hence the skin itching. So mine was different, my journey with ivermectin, from all the experiences that are on the forums out there. And basically, this protocol is saving millions of lives. All diseases are curable by this protocol. The very day that I took it, fenbenzidole, to the required dosage on the 23rd of June, I'll never forget it, just after the solstice, I slept like a baby and my gut was dead still. That we used to rumble at night, just rumbling outrageously. And it was tranquil. I slept like a baby, no itching. The moment, within half an hour of taking that stuff. So what it does, fenbenzidole kills the nervous system of the parasites. It's not like taking wormwood and black walnut hull and all of this turpentine, which I did all those protocols, and more, hydrogen peroxide, MMS. Nothing works like this. So that's my experience. I don't want people to come back, wanting advice about this. I'm not in the position to do that. I get a lot of people, since they've found out about my journey to health, and I'm not able to coach people. But I can just tell you, the information's out there on YouTube and in forums, how people are turning their health right around. Miraculous stories. I feel better than I've ever felt in my life. And what has happened is it's enabled bliss to come into my life. And I don't operate from a departure point of fatigue and exhaustion. When I wake up, it's like I didn't sleep. I'm more tired. And that's because the parasites are taking all your nutrition. They're taking all your vital energy, they're sapping it. That's what parasites do. Like the political system, it's a parasite, And that's why people get fatigued in their journey with all these distractions. And parasites have been used by the elite, by the people who, I guess, weaponize them. They've been weaponized. I know that I would have had superbugs in me. I also had a tick bite back in 2006 or 7. And my health did spiral after that tick bite. And I remember one of the guys that found out, the owner of the property where I was staying, he was telling me months before that watch out for tick bites because they've been weaponized and people are getting bitten all over the place and it's causing hell in the hospitals. And then within probably weeks of hearing that from my friend, I looked down here one day and I've got this lump and it's a tick. And I started scratching it and then I realized it was a tick and I panicked and I pulled it out without doing the right twisting of the head toward the right. You're supposed to grab them with your nails, twist them. I panicked. And it caused a big purple patch here for about a month. And it was hectic after that. I felt a big difference in my health. So bugs have been weaponized, guys. This is why we need to remove the agents of our demise and self-sabotage, which are parasites, which cause entities to dictate your life and destroy it.
That's a powerful experience and powerful story, and obviously very useful to people who may be suffering from similar situations, like myself. Like I have had suffering since 2014, the end of 2014, all the way through since now, and it can keep you up all night. And it is, as you've said, it's an intelligent kind of scenario. I mean, I don't even like to put the intention onto it too much because it feels like you're empowering it, but like at the end of the day, it can keep you up all night until the sun rises and then you're exhausted. And that is because I'd be scratching and plucking hair is what it does to me. It makes me pluck my hair. And that has not been pleasurable. It's also it makes you feel shameful in a sense. You know, it makes you, because it's not nice. And so I am certainly intrigued to just follow up with an inquiry while we're here. So that's just for confirmation for the audience as well, if they've got anything similar. So this is Fendemzimol, and that's like a cat and dog wormer. It's not, but this is actually the key, because I heard this confirmed from a client that I was talking about it with. But actually, yes, this can be the cure for cancer as well, and this can be. It's obviously all personalised, and we're not prescribing here, but we're just saying that there's been people who've had experiences where there's been great, tremendous relief for some really serious diseases here, and it's not going to be prescribed by any of our doctors to help us out.
No, look, it's the big secret. You see, the medications for animals work and they're good, and the reason is because they want you hooked on. Well, they want you to see that they work, and then when you do the same protocol for human medications, they don't have the same effect somehow. You know, they're like placebos, or they're harmful, either one or the other. That's how they make them. To have no effect, like vaccines, some people don't get affected because they haven't got all the shit in them. But then others do. They put batches out according to the demographic that they want to, you know, affect. And so then all of a sudden there'll be a flare-up of vaccine injuries, and so, because it's all either placebo or harmful. But when it comes to animals, they get it right, because they want you to see the power of good medication. We can heal ourselves of anything. People are curing themselves of irreversible cancer with this protocol. This is not a joke. This is really, really something special to discover for me. I resisted taking it for years. I had a sister down in New South Wales, a health coach type person, who was telling me for a long time, and I resisted it. She was saying, you need to take ivermectin and fenbenzidol. And I looked at it. I looked into it, and I thought, I'm not going to do an animal dewormer. It's toxic. And yet there were no side effects other than I restored my health.
And if anybody watched any of the videos of you over the past few years, you look rosy. You look beautiful and radiant, and like you're full of life, and you hear it in your tone and your energy. You're not suffering.
Thank you, brother. Yeah, I feel it. I'm telling you, I've never felt healthy. I don't have syndromes. And that's why I'm sharing this with people. Otherwise, well, I probably should have done it toward the end of the show, the interview, but because we've got a subject to consider. But health is so important. There are so many people suffering, and I'm surprised at the response to this from people all around the world. Every day, people are contacting me. Please, I have itching. I have the same things as you. Send me the protocol. And I'm busy doing that since I did the show with Eric Brose on Global Witness it was 2 months ago. I was in Australia, and I was busy before flying to America, sending tens and tens of protocols. It's in demand, you know, and I've never had any kind of response to a show or interview ever like this, the demand.
I've got to let you know, Santos, like on my channel, which I feel is a bit suppressed or held back, like some of the videos don't get shared. I don't mean to buy into victimhood or anything too much, but you know, that seems to be the case. But the last interview that we did back in February, that gets about 20 or 30 views a day. It's my most viewed video, and I don't know how accessible my content is, but people are interested in the subjects that we covered with regards to this, and so it is a big deal, and it is a groundbreaking. So I don't know on your channel how much of an uprise you've had recently with people searching your stuff. I mean, you've always been a popular man of great content, but I imagine that actually people are searching and searching and searching, not just for the knowledge, but for the keys and solutions to these health issues as well.
Yeah, they are, because intuitively, in our path to ascension, we know that it begins with the body. It's the baptism of the body, the baptism of earth. We have to cleanse the earth with the baptism of water, the universal solvent. Then the baptism of air or spirit, which is a mental baptism. And then the mystic fire baptism, the baptism of fire. And you can't be baptized with fire if your body hasn't been cleansed with the purifying waters of truth. And your body, being a alchemical laboratory par excellence, requires stability in the pH spectrum of like 7.34. And that's the war between acid ruled by Saturn and alkalinity ruled by alkalos, which in Arabic means the sun, God, which is the sun. So Horus and Set. So this war between Jesus and Satan, Horus and Set, is a war between alkalinity and acidity, and balancing it in the body. And there begins the journey with the physical health. So despite or regardless of all your efforts in dietary change, mental exercises, yoga, physical yoga, mental exercises such as meditation, and all of these things, without having a healthy body that's balanced in alkalinity, the effect of yoga and exercising and working out and all of those things are really, really diminished. And you don't get the results. And then this is why people, they go on a diet. Oh, it was great to be vegan or raw for 40 days. I got healthy. My eyesight improved. But I'm back to eating meat or eggs or whatever, and grosser foods which have blood in them. And then they their vibration goes back down again because they felt great. But it was only a small improvement. So when you start your journey of ascension with the body, and don't so much go for, you see people going for ayahuasca and entheogens to enlighten them. Well, you'll get enlightened. It's all good, but diminished again in its effect. When you do preparation for ayahuasca, if you're a flesh eater, you cannot touch the stuff for 2 weeks. Or it can be very demonic experience. You're not clean. It's the temple's impure. So this preparation, if you're going to take an entheogen, imagine the preparation if you're going to ascend and raise the Christic fluids and purify the nervous system. See, the nervous system is the tree of life. Once the nervous system is clean, according to George Carey, the ascension process is enabled. This is why vaccines, chemtrails, and the toxins therein are weaponized to debilitate the nervous system.
However, when we take the reins and we follow the procedures to ensure that we're taking care of our nervous system and our body, then those many different layers of operations to disable us from accessing our ascension and our empowerment are actually futile to us really taking responsibility. But we have to be educated on how to take responsibility and ownership and authority over our vehicle, correct?
Yeah, yes, that's right. We have a responsibility, a duty of care, for our own, to care for ourselves first. You can't save someone else or help others as effectively as you would like if you're not healthy. I've been very unhealthy for 10 years, and I've been able to help other people. You do help other people, but if you depart from that pure and clean point, it's much more effective. If you have the power to heal yourself, then you have power to heal other people, not just with your words and advice and good, information, but from your own presence, from your own consciousness. Because once you're clean, your torus field is connected to everybody else's torus field in the universe.
Just like the trees. just like the trees that you surround yourself with your meditation.
Yeah. So your duty is to clean your temple so that others can be clean. It's up to us, as within, so without. If we look at without in the world and it's dirty and people are homeless and people are sick, well, look within, and and you'll see that your cells are resonating with that because they're toxic. So managing the toxicity and the health of the body is a duty. Body clean, eye simple, and the life prospers and blessings come. And then we recharge our magnetic field and restore our holiness. And it's the pure path. It's the way back, because that's our source. That's where we originated. We didn't originate as sinners. So in Scripture, when it says that we're sinners, that's because we chose to be. We were born in sin, meaning that's where our journey of choosing began. But we are born perfect. The Bible says, did I not call ye gods? And Jesus actually quotes that scripture from Psalms 84. Did I not call ye gods? And so Jesus was teaching that, you are not God in its wholeness, like you are not all the water, but if you are a droplet of water, you're still water. So we are goodness, not God, as Manly P. Hall teaches. We're not God, we are goodness. And goodness, well, that's godness. So it's the same thing.
So we have to be gracious with our goodness.
Yeah. So great introduction, I think, a good way to preface and introduce our syncretism today, because...
I have a question with regards to something you mentioned about Saturn and the Sun. And so the war between those two forces, if you will. And so Saturn from what I've heard, is like the traditional original sun. And I've heard maybe it was yourself talking that saying that we are the urn for the consciousness, and the sat is all of that which is sat around us, like a satellite bouncing back. So we learn from the satellite how to change ourselves from within, rather than, as you say, pointing the finger and blaming outside of ourselves. And so that way we be the change that we wish to see in our experience. A bit like Virgo, you lead with that change from the inside out, and that's how you make the altar. You either love what you see outside, even if it's not so, if it's intimidating or garish, you've got to love it. Or if you haven't got the capacity to love that, then you love yourself and change it from the inside out. Always with the love, because we are the gardener, we're the fertilizer. So can you explain to me how that aligns with this ongoing duality? And does this mean that the actual sun is a bit like a falsity, a false light, or is it something that actually obviously it's all natural, or they're just part of the system? Maybe you can explain further with regards to this ongoing battle or competition.
Yep. So white light is magnetism. It radiates. Black light, Saturn, is dielectricity, which is your black holes where light escapes out of. So the sun is a portal for magnetic white light to create matter, and Saturn is the enabler. Saturn is the portal. So Saturn is turning, which when you turn in a potter's wheel, you make an urn. And so your body is this vessel. It is the urn of Saturn turning. And that's where you begin your journey. But he is black. So black light is where you go back to. It's in the word. So, and also the word black is in the word black, because black light is where there is no lack. In other words, it's your resting. Black light, Krishna and Christ means black, and it means to crest, to rest. It's resting light, right? And so that light is where you go back to. When they say don't go to the white light, that they are right, because the white light is magnetism, and it will bring you back into incarnation. It's not evil. It's not a mistake. If you want to ascend, you have to go back to the black light, because white is blanco. Blanco means blank. So when you start with a blank, so what happens is you reincarnate in the white light, and white means blank.
Like blanc, like in the French, blanc.
Blanc. You get wiped, your memory gets wiped out. And you start as white, blank, pure, like children, you know, and you have to start again. So if you want to keep going back to source, it's the black light. You see, it's not good and evil. It's not doing what red shift and blue shift are doing, good and evil. It's a transcendental concept. It's something that possibly humans cannot conceive, or unawakened people, sorry. So,
Can I interject just for a moment? Like, so the black night light is us, self, and it's the feminine black hole within us. So
black is masculine.
Black's masculine, and so that's election.
They tell you
the black's the election.
They tell you that it's the other way around with the yin and yang. Yeah, they say the white is masculine and black is feminine. No, in the original archetype, in the original principle before expansion, because they always flip-flop down below, you know. Satan is Jesus, Jesus is Satan in the lower, in the material world. So in its very, very, very top departing point, black light is masculine, it is resting. It's the feminine principle, mag. Mag means to move in Sanskrit. That is the action principle. That's why they say Radharani, which is magnetism, is far billions of times more powerful than Krishna. And John Mewelsky, a great magnetrician here in the United States, he, quoting Maxwell and Faraday's equations of the 1700s, where they discovered that magnetism is exactly 10 billion times more powerful than electricity. So this is how powerful the Queen of Heaven's pure white light, non-vibratory, is. If you pray to Radharani, she can never decline your request. Krishna can choose.
So
it's the masculine principle.
This is Saturn we're talking about, right?
Yeah, Saturn is Krishna, Kronos, Christ, Kr.
And so Radharani is this is what churns, is it? So this is what moves things around. This is what churns the gold, the batter.
Kr is cryptic. Cryptic means hidden. Saturn is occult. Kri in Greek is cold. Saturn rules cold. Krios, to cry. Saturn causes cry, kri, tears, because he gives you lessons in life. So when he is the topmost seventh heaven and the first portal of incarnation. So that's why his name means turn, Saturn, because Elohim means to twist and turn. He enables Radharani, the sun, white light, to rotate. Torah, Taurus, the Torah. So that's where turning starts. And then his son Jupiter, Thor, is also turning. And so these are the twisters, the Elohim, and they are generating bodies, and they give you a torus field. You've got your own. You are an atom, hence you have an anatomy, you see, and you have a thoracic cage, which looks like a torus field. So it's all in the language. It's all etymology.
So we are the micro of the macro. It is all us. We are all each individually the center of the whole, but we are actually...
Man is the measure of the universe.
Mm-hmm. The anatomy is the universe, the whole thing. But so would you say that actually each one of us are the central point, but we're observing ourselves from this perspective of separation and each other from that? But obviously we don't have to go outside to any other source, because we are that source. It's within us.
Yeah. So we are God, and we are individualized parts of God. So we can see God, what we are really like, through nature and other people. We can build a relationship with God by ourselves, which is our higher self. And so this is what people are denying, their higher mind. They're in the carnal mind. So it's a war between...
Each of the different characters within this play, i.e. you, all of the different people that we're in relationship with, me for you, are different facets of our own inner self. And so we learn about our inner self via the different people letting space, the different agents contracting space within our reality, are just different facets that are kind of re-rented out. It's like, you're allowed into my experience because I appreciate you, or even if we don't appreciate someone, we've let them into our experience, so they are contracted and they're subletting a bit of space which is actually represented of some unconscious facet of ourselves that we're learning from and with.
Yeah, that's why when we have memories, fond memories of friends in the past, how did they just turn up? You know, you just think back in the past, because they are a part of you, and their torus field interactions with yours caused that energy to embed itself in your DNA, you know, just by, you know, being with each other. You know, the Greeks called this like a henosis, a paradosis. Paradosis, I believe, is the right word, where it means, they used to say, the Platonists, that if you so much as go next to a holy person, you will receive a portion of their consciousness. This is why people do pilgrimages to see gurus, you know, because they just want to be in their presence, because it will affect them. Their magnetic energy is great and radiant, and it will seep into your torus field, and it will, because they are a part of us. So, and the same vice versa. If we, you know, stand next to, sometimes you're standing in a queue and someone behind you just gives you a real creepy, you know, and you look around and you see this, an individual which even has the look that unsettles you. The body, the energy, everything is unsettling you, and you just can't shake it off, right? So, and then you walk away from that, and all day, if it really did, you know, annoy you or get to you, it can remain for, you know, hours. You know, you have to go and have a shower or wash your hands. Or in ancient cultures, they would never shake hands with people unless they could wash them immediately after. Not for being rude, but for keeping their torus field pure, you know, and not to receive the holes in their holy field through the parasites that are running, you know, their mental programs or whatever, you know. So holiness is, you know, it's a serious business. Life is, we should take it seriously. We don't take ourselves seriously, as they say, philosophically speaking, but yeah, life is, it's a serious thing. If you want to, I mean, I've always wanted to climb the top of the mountain. I've always wanted to, you know, discover the purpose of life and do it. You know, I've always wanted to serve God. You know, when I was a teenager, I returned to the Jehovah's Witnesses, which I grew up with, was raised as a Jehovah's Witness and loved it. But in my teen years, from 13 to 19, I just went away from them and just did the usual things, you know, the cannabis, chasing girls, fast cars, music, fun. But spirituality was always there. You know, even in my teens, I was always different to everyone, you know, in every setting, all my friends. I was always different. You know, I was always speaking on spiritual themes and
that can make you feel
philosophy.
Like people can see you as the person that makes them feel uncomfortable with you representing the spiritual side, so that they might feel like, you know, how we said that, oh, we see someone who we don't feel resonance with, because they feel like they're the opposer to what our energy is, and so that we can play that role for others, which can make us feel isolated, right? What I liken it to is the nursery rhyme, who's that doggy in the window? Because it's the dog star of our pole, of our polarity. We attract so very often when we haven't dealt with our shadows, especially in Saturnian cases, like our Saturn return or depression that we may be going through. Then what we do is we come face to face with the shadow manifested in the light. And so that's for us to resolve inwardly and do that work within ourselves, so that we don't get such a big fright when we're walking around in our day-to-day physical experiences.
Yeah, it's about escaping the carnal mind, you know, making money, surviving, and all these, well, you know, they're necessary things. It's part of life. We have to attend to those. But going into the higher mind and realizing that you are God and everyone else is God and they're on their separate journeys, and getting to that state where, because people are so polluted in their nervous systems, they are confused about this relationship they have with God. So, you know, they might start awakening and having all kinds of symptoms and changes come into their life, and then people around them may actually, you know, get unsettled and advise them to go see a doctor because they're becoming, you know, delusional. And yet, no, that would be the worst thing to do, because then they'll put them on medications which make them far worse, you know. And rather, they should attend to their, people should be knowing that this person is experiencing an awakening and they're starting to see their multidimensional self, and they're starting to peep into their spiritual dimensions and trying to awaken. But the system is geared to keep people distracted, you know, all kinds of recreation and entertainments and, you know, whatever, fame, glory, riches. People will do anything for these things, anything. And as John Lennon said, you know, they will smile. There's plenty of room at the top. There is still, as long as you learn how to smile while you kill. I think it was something like that, one of his lyrics there in Working Class Hero. So, you know, and they're smiling killers, they're smiling assassins. You know, you'll see them out socially smiling, and they look pretty, you know, they've got their BMWs and their success stories, but at home, they're all, you know, it's a different story. So it's all about appearances, but it's superficial happiness. Whereas we, from going through the process of being awakened into our higher mind, we're more, I think cannabis was the best thing I ever did for my consciousness. I always said growing up that two things saved me from absolute, probably, I don't know, ignorance or whatever. And they were cannabis and Led Zeppelin. I love music. I've been a professional music all my life. Since early 20s, making a living from music. So, and Led Zeppelin inspired that. And I used to listen to a lot of music, but when Led Zeppelin turned up in the 70s when I was a teenager, the first song I heard just expanded my consciousness. I always said that their music was so transcendental and mystical that it was the only band, and I like them. I love them all. You know, Pink Floyd and Supertramp and all those British big super bands. I'm into them all. The Stones, the Beatles, love them. But Led Zeppelin are the only ones that have the power to expand consciousness for me. And I was saved by cannabis, which in the Bible is God's favorite incense. It's called cannabosum. In fact, all of my presentations, and right now, I am under the influence of cannabis. I have never done a presentation in any language, Portuguese, Spanish, Italian, or English, at any time not being under the influence of cannabis. So I want to share that with people, because if you enjoy the syncretism and all the dots that I've connected, that was enabled purely and solely by Mother Mary.
Well, they say that it's the gateway, the gateway drug, but like I see that it's not the gateway to other drugs; it's the gateway to the consciousness. It's the gateway to
Mother Mary speaking words of wisdom. Wisdom. Wiz is Isis, and Dom is, well, Dominus, the Lord, Adam. So you've got Isis and the wisdom of the goddess in it. Wisdom. She comes first, yeah? The male principle comes last. Isis is first. So, cannabis is all about wisdom. They don't want you to have the cannabis in its original strains. They want you to have the poor quality strains and chemical, kinds, because those will lower your vibration. Cannabis, for me, a lot of people get distracted and lazy when they get on cannabis. But me, I become like the Incredible Hulk. I just start doing stuff. I get inspired and I get energized. Even indigo does that to me. None of it puts me to sleep. And that's probably why in many of my presentations, you'll find that I am a little bit racy. And I don't probably, slow down, because I'm inspired. I don't want to be straight when I do an interview. I mean, I don't want to bore people. I get bored when I go to concerts even, it's sacrilegious for me to say, but I'll give you an example. For instance, I went to see Roger Waters of Pink Floyd, and I love him. I'm a big Pink Floyd. And I remember I didn't have any cannabis, and the first part of the concert, I really enjoyed it, and I remember feeling bored. And I get bored when I listen to other truthers, because they're very monotonous. They don't know how to modulate, the 3 Ps, pitch, power, and pace. And they don't have fun, and I don't think they have enough cannabis, personally.
I like that, what you say about the 3 Ps of art. That's quite good, because that is really key, right? You've got to have fun. You've got to be able to change your pace and change your emotional flow. Sometimes you can be real Saturnian, strict with what you're saying, and then another time you can be completely Uranian and change your flow. And it's to be able to go through the different octaves, the different layers of the channels, gives you the opportunities to be dexterous and entertaining and teach with playfulness. I think that's certainly something which I enjoy to experiment with.
I'll just finish with the cannabis subject. I would be so downloaded with syncretisms with cannabis that I could easily roll a joint and grab a pen and notebook and take my shoes off and go for a walk up the hill. This is even back in Melbourne when I was living in east of Melbourne in Berwick, in the outer suburbs of Melbourne, there was a hill, and I would often just take that with me and know that after having the joint, that I would just have to take notes, because I could time when I wanted to do my downloads, right? So now I don't need that process, but it's better. I can do it straight. Syncretism comes to me all day long. I'm in prayer mode from the moment I wake up. So yeah. Anyway, I just want to share that with people. I've had some negative comments at times. I might just insert this. I've had people say in the comments, that because I was itching my nose, scratching my nose in many presentations, that I was doing cocaine. I'll be frank. I've done cocaine twice in my life, in my earlier years, and I didn't like it. So there you go. Honesty. Yes, I can be very honest about all the entheogens and things I've taken. So I can put that to bed. That was the itching problem. I did my best syncretism through the 10 years of torture of itching, and yet, sometimes, you.
I'm not a huge fan of the cocaine. I did it a couple of times. Seen a lot of people on it. I think that it can be quite an arrogant kind of drug or experience. It's not really been anything that I've touched for years. I did smoke weed for 15 years, pretty much every day. And it's been the longest in my life since I was about 16 that I haven't smoked weed. Now, it's been 2 months since I've smoked weed. It's the longest. I had to have a break because I just had to sometimes you have to have a bit of a step away from things, but you never say never, That's just what my experience is for me. And so it has been incredibly powerful because it opened me up. And the reason I stopped was because it was opening me up a bit too much. I was getting to access information that was making me quite unsettled in the environment where I was within. And so I needed to keep myself in a safe place by not having that constantly. But there's always the opportunity. So there is that. I've got to go to
moderation.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, well, I'll just, while you do that, I'll just keep going.
That's brilliant. I was going to actually say to you, you don't have a guitar to hand, do you? I'd love to hear one of your songs. Well, before we start on
no, I'd need it, the kind of guitar playing I do. I'd need 1 hour before I will.
Because you've got to warm up.
Yeah, I'm not a good guitarist cold. I have to warm up.
That's cool. I respect and understand that, especially when I just sprung it upon you like that. But maybe another time. I'll be back in 1 minute. Carry on as you please. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. I'll talk about moderation, but just on that point, just for the listeners, I have had a lot of people ask me to play guitar, and I always decline on shows and stuff like that, because unless I know they want me to do that, I will have to do an hour at least of scales and warming up. But moderation is the key to what you were saying there, Philip. If you abuse any substance, it does have its toxic side. All food is protecting itself with toxins and poisons. All foods are poisonous, So they will have their poison. If you continue taking anything that is good, it will have a reverse effect too. So with anything, and cannabis is the same. But on another note, or going back to that too, strains, different strains may have a different effect. So yeah, just watch that you're getting good quality stuff, I would say. But definitely, if God loves cannabism so much that he requests it to be burnt as incense in his altars, that shows how powerful it is. And by the way, the word altar is Arabic for Taurus, al-Tor. Al is God and Tor is the bull. So when you burn incense at the altar, it's a Taurus, it's Torah, and Taurus is here, ruling the lower part of the head. And so its significance, when you look at cathedrals, cathedrals are in the plan of the human body. And the altar is always before where the Holy of Holies, where the curtain is. Before the curtain, which is the separation between Aries and Taurus, is the altar. And George Carey brought that out in his book, God-Man, the Word Made Flesh. How in all cathedrals, the altar is right there where Taurus is, and Pisces is the feet, where you enter the 2 feet, you see. They will always have 2 pillars, jachin and boas, and that's the 2 fish, and you enter through the fish gate into God's temple, and you end up, you can never go, the plebeians or the goy, the Gentiles, whatever language you choose to describe them, were prohibited from even going to the altar. Only the high priest could enter the Holy of Holies, Aries, once a year. And I think that was in the Jewish festival of Passover, where the sun goes into Aries, and that's where the high priest once a year would enter the most holy Aries, and he would officiate in the altar Taurus. And that's where incense is to be burned. So if you're burning incense in your altar, in your home, you are burning it in your Taurus. And so you would be providing spiritual nutrition through the crystals and the cannabinoids in cannabis to be able to, bring. It is known that crystals have consciousness. Crystal means Christ. So when Christ light incarnates, it crystallizes. The crystal is the Alvin Boyd Kuhn says that the crystal is the limit of light's work. And then from crystal, it radioactivity, which simply just means that things are going from fusion to fission in the world. Hydrogen has to fuse to get to plutonium. Plutonium has to go through fission and release to go back to hydrogen. And they're going up and down Jacob's ladder, all the elements. Well, they're not elements. Walter Russell taught that they were just frequencies. So
is Jacob's
this is the breathing.
Our spine.
Well, it is. It's also in your spine. Your Taurus is a torso field. Your torso is a Taurus field, and that's why your spinal column has a lumbar. What's a lumberjack? Well, it's timber. It's a tree. It's a Tory, and then it has 12 discs on the vertebrae, which are the thoracic discs. Well, R4 has 12 disciples, or Knights of the Round Table. We know that Tor is Jupiter, and Jupiter Zeus, which is Jesus, who also happens to have 12 disciples. So that's the thoracic part, just above the lumbar, the tree of life in you. And then the cervix is the final. Cervix means the heavens, and they have 7 vertebrae, and they are the 7 heavens. So when you reach the top of the 7 heavens of the cervix, the 33rd vertebrae, crucifixion, back to cause. But before you do that whole process, you are still awakened. You still have your halo. You still glow. We do glow. You know, everything has light. We just can't see the aura. We're not synesthetic. We haven't regained that power and enabled it to see the light coming from their bodies. But before we
I have
create
to show
the
you.
Christ in...
Oh, go on.
Yeah, before we get to that, we're still there. You know, we're still holy.
This is really interesting.
It's a journey.
Yeah, this is really interesting because I want to get back to what you're saying there as well. But like, this is a zodiac which I found by the altar of the cathedral in the city where I was born. And you see it's got the signs here, and it's beautifully depicted on the floor. I'll show you the actual whole picture of it. And this is at Chichester Cathedral here in England. And so basically, I've sung in this cathedral when I was a boy. And that was very, obviously, I was in the choir at the school. But also, I asked, what's this part? I just asked what this part of this chapel was called. And they said it was the Seaman Chapel. And chap is another word for penis, chap. And so it was quite interesting that they had this part, and you say it's all part of the body. But you said that only the vicar, the great vicar, would go to beyond the altar. This was barricaded off. I snuck behind so I could take the video there and take the picture of all, because I couldn't not, you know, after I've seen it there, and I've walked past it hundreds of times. I had to go and take a picture of this while I had the opportunity to get it on camera. And it's right there for everyone to see. So I want to get your opinion on that. And then I want to talk about the story of Saturn being employed to cut the phallus away from Uranus. The phallus then turning into Aphrodite. And so that is actually the Christ consciousness that was cut away. Because we come into the physical instead of coming into ourselves, into that darkness that we were aware of. And so this is like the cultivation process that we've been talking about, isn't it? We've kind of the fall of man was actually when we found ourselves besotted by lights outside of ourselves rather than the darkness of our awareness of ourself within us. And that's what I see. And that myth is repeated again and again and again. The Peter Pan story is when Peter Pan cut off the hand of Captain Cook and threw it into the crocodile, which had a clock in it, and we fell into time. It's the same story there, and it's again and again and again. It's the same story as Samson and Delilah, right? When Delilah cuts the long hair of Samson in the summer so it can regrow again in the winter. But like, if we look at the ruling planet of Aquarius, which is represented by Delilah, then we see that is Saturn, or modern day Uranus, which represents that inner dark light. And so I would like your opinion on that. It's almost a bit like we come out of the garden, which was within us, like the Eden, and yet now we're looking at remerging with that energy. And this is very particular with the current astrology as well, because we're about to embark on Jupiter joining Saturn and Pluto in the sign of Capricorn. And that hasn't happened for 735 years, that Jupiter, Saturn and Pluto have all been in the sign of Capricorn. The last time that this was the case was in the year 1284, when we were under a different awareness of our cosmology. We knew ourselves to be at the center of all things. We were living in the knowledge of the Copernican spheres. That cosmology was where we're at the center, and all of the different other spheres were different layers of our cosmology, different layers of our own awareness of selves, like different chakras, and all of this. As you say, the seventh heaven being Saturn, the top one, and all of the different ones being the ones that are nearer to us on the plane. And so I see that we're actually, with this conjunction this year, where we have an eclipse on Christmas Day, and the last time on 1284 there was an eclipse on Christmas Eve, so they're just after the winter solstice. What we're doing is we come out of our awareness then, a bit like Saturn, in the story, cut off the phallus of Uranus, which is the heavenly body of our crown chakra, our pituitary gland. We were cut away from that pineal gland, the consciousness of cultivating the seed and rising it up the Jacob's ladder. That was cut away from us back 735 years ago. But now we've got this re-remembering time. We're getting pure because we're building towards this conjunction of Saturn and Pluto, which happens more regularly, but it's not, with Jupiter there as well, in the sign of all templates, Capricorn. This is actually, we're returning to the template. We've got K2, the South Node there. We're returning to our heritage of knowing that we are the template. We are the astrologos, right? And so this is quite a powerful story. I would love your opinion on, firstly, the church and all of that, which I just kind of put together with regards to the Copernican cosmology and all that.
Oh yeah, those are some great points, man. I'd love to talk about those. Yeah, you mentioned the semen before. Well, why were young boys sent to seminaries? What was it that they had to learn about it? Well, they had to learn the process of ascension. You know, they had to learn how to use it to provide the materials that the body needs, the nervous system, to raise the fluids up, and then provide the materials to generate and develop a 13th cranial nerve in the cranium. Without those materials, and it takes 12 years, according to Samael Aumweor, the guy who wrote the book, The Perfect Matrimony, says that it takes 12 years of white tantra to create enough materials to regenerate this Christ nerve. And that's what they would have been learning in the seminaries, how valuable and life-giving.
Because I think it's very important to get definition on what you're saying, because I know exactly what you're saying. I just want to clarify it for myself and for the audience. So that 13th nerve is actually the halo, or it's our self-healing capacity, but that's what was cut away in the story, the myth of the phallus or the being cut off in the story I just told, where Gaia asks Saturn, can you please cut off Uranus's bollocks so that we can actually learn through the process of the fall of man, which has been this 735, if not longer, year process. Obviously, that all the length of time is debatable, but that's certainly the astrology that we're working with, which is definitely that's the cycles. You can't argue with the cycles of astrology. They are what they are. And so it's not to say that we had it all perfect back in the year 1284, but we certainly maybe were much closer to knowing our heritage then. So go on. Yes, I don't mean to cut you off too much.
Yep. So the body, that's our ultimate way of escape. It's our ascension process. That's the crowning glory of our life. And so what they've done is, according to Samael, they started teaching doctrines against the perfect matrimony. And the two doctrines were celibacy and promiscuity. So the left-hand path is promiscuity, the right-hand path is purity and ascension. And in the middle, you have celibacy, which is what I would call stagnancy. These people achieve something in their life, some kind of a spiritual experience, but not a mystical. They won't get to the mystical level, the anagogic level. And because they're not developing the nerve, you know, they're not providing the material, it's going nowhere. They're not having sex. You have to actually have sex. This is the beauty of sex. Not only does everybody enjoy it and need it, everybody, it has the greatest results and enables everlasting life. And so what they did was they started teaching against marriage. Marriage is sacred, by the way. It's not about a marriage certificate. It's about committing to a soulmate or an individual that you love. You have to be in love, and doing the process, you know. And because according to Samael, the man is the activator of the female, and the female vice versa. They need each other. So they made marriage, worthless in the eyes of people, and they made promiscuity, accessible or whatever, or a good option. And they, according to Samael, they shut the door on the process that the seminaries were teaching and the mystery schools. Mystery schools means to reach that they weren't spiritual schools. Spiritual is philosophy. Okay, so they were mystery schools. Mist, M-Y-S-T, is fire. M-I-S-T is water. So there are two baptisms, right? And Plato calls the water baptism the pseudo-baptism, because those people who go to church, they get baptized in water, good churchgoers. It's a pseudo-baptism because it's psychic. It has to do with psychic phenomena. It's not even spiritual, which is the air baptism, and it's not even mystical. So these people, not only are they, not advancing in the baptisms, but they don't even know how to do it. They've got their beautiful husband and wife, they love each other, but their sex practices are,
So can I ask you a question about the psychic baptism? So basically that is like being indoctrinated to one element of extrasensory ability, and that can bring absolute paranoia and reading of energies which maybe not read correctly necessarily, buying into timelines and energies which will be disconcerting to the individuals. Maybe obviously it's got the flip side, that's the negative I've just shared. It's obviously intuition kind of thing as well, psychic. Am I buying that correctly, reading that correctly?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, for sure. So the process, the process is. Hang on, I just have to tell someone I'm on a call. I've got this. Who is that? But what was the other question anyway? What can we continue talking about? I got distracted there. So
it was just basically about the kind of place where we are within the astrology now, building towards Jupiter joining Saturn and Pluto in Capricorn. First time in 735 years. Quite a scenario, not just for our lives, but for the century, because it's taken almost 1,000 years. That's 3 Pluto cycles for them all to congregate in the sign that represents all traditions.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's the other thing. You mentioned a good point about Uranus being castrated. So Uranus is Ur, U-R or O-R is oro, gold. So Uranus represents Christ. Uranus is actually Krishna. I know I said it was Saturn. That's true. But first place, it's Uranus. Uranus is the god of the 1,000-year cycle, which is spoken of in the Bible. Every 12 revolutions of Uranus's 84-year orbit or cycle comes to 1,008 years. So 108 is the number of Krishna. It's a processional number. And all of the planets actually gravitate to that 1008 year cycle. It's uranium.
So they all,
So
every 1008 years, they all return to the same space that they were in 1008 years prior.
no.
Okay.
No, yeah, well, it will, Uranus will do its return. Yes, that's correct. But, oh, maybe I misunderstood your question. I'll explain how it works. Even Saturn, even Neptune, I think it's 6 revolutions of Neptune brings you to 1008. Pluto comes close. Saturn comes to it. I know Jupiter does. They all hone in on this 108 number, and that's Krishna's number. So when he gets castrated, Uranos Uranos in Greek means heavens, uranium, heavens. So Saturn is the principle of where we incarnate. He starts turning, you see. That's where turning begins, incarnation, torus fields, torsos, anatomies existing, you know. And so that is symbolic of our leaving the spiritual world. Uranus has the blueprint of our DNA. It's all transcendental. It's like, for instance, you can see my face on the screen here, right? But the source of my image on the screen is digital. It doesn't exist in space.
So that's like your birth chart.
It's not. It's counterspatial. It's not spatial. So information is counterspatial.
Uranus is the sky disk, the firmament, and so it's, you could say it's like the fixed stars, the starry vault. That is almost, that's a 2D representation of our DNA, of our multidimensional consciousness in the birth chart, and that's what comes through into the physical, which is obviously Saturn and nearer, with Saturn being the farthest that we can see with our naked eye. Prior to that would be Uranus.
Yep. And then Jupiter castrates Saturn in return. So it's a dynasty thing, you know, it's a dynasty problem. You know, we've got patricide, father killers. But why does Saturn now get castrated? Well, Jupiter is the torus field. Saturn starts the turning. Jupiter is making the torsos, Jupiter, because he is the third principle of the Trinity. Dielectricity, magnetism, electricity. See, Jupiter is Thor, and what is he associated with? Thunderbolts, thun, tun, all these are tun. So Jupiter, with his electricity, he is El, the god of electricity. Saturn is dielectricity, and it gets castrated. Electricity has to pretty much burst forth in wave form from magnetic white light to create the electromagnetic wave. Magnetism can't do anything without that red shift, blue shift wave form. So
am I correct? It's also just a very short point. So you taught me this before. It's trilling, and so is Jupiter, and Radharani is Saturn, and so they're the two different tones.
No, Radharani is the consort of Krishna, Saturn, and that would be, let's call her by her true name, Rhea. Saturn and Rhea, Kronos and Rhea, Rhea, Freya of the Nordics. Hare is an anagram of Rhea, Hare. It's backwards virtually, and that's what the Hare Krishnas do. It's all See, this is why Saturn is evil, because people don't understand magnetism. They're cool with Jupiter and electricity and abundance. Jupiter is expansive. Electricity is expansive through the waveform. Jupiter is the enabler of the waveform. That's why Saturn gets castrated, because time can't do anything, nor can space. As Ken Wheeler says, they're not principles. I mean, they're not entities on their own right, that they can't act on anything. So both Saturn and Rhea, dielectricity and magnetism, they cannot do anything without Jupiter, the son of God. You see, Jesus is the son of God, the son of Saturn. He's the son of Joseph. Seth means Seth, means set, means sat. Joseph means father Saturn. That's why Jesus, Jupiter Zeus, his son, castrates him. There's always a problem with your daddy, you know. Joseph is the foster father of Jesus. Oh my God. How did God get a freaking foster father? That's a great deal, man.
We play this out in our incarnations as well, the same stories through the archetypes, right? So for instance, like, I am a Capricorn sun. However, I didn't meet my father. I didn't castrate him. I didn't meet him. And so how can you say this plays out? And can you fluff out these energies for us?
Yeah, well, see, everything is this trinity: dielectricity, magnetism, and electricity. So everything is going to play out this way. We have it in our nature, okay? Our nature is this. So our bodies are electrical. John Milwelski says magnetism is spiritual force. Electricity is purely material. It's a vibration. Magnetism is a radiation. So it would be good to understand the difference between radiation and vibration. This is where you will have the key to unlock the whole system. So magnetism pulsates, which radiates radially in every direction. As it propagates through the medium, whether it be air or water or ether, it radiates in every direction, and it's magnetism, it's magnitude. And as it propagates, it encounters resistance, ohms, satoms, the resistor. And it creates, by nature, the effect of, you know, this energy expression, a transverse wave. So radiation is longitudinal. So if you understand the difference between energy traveling along a line and energy doing this, you can see how energy doing this is inefficient. It's got time, it's got decay to it. It will eventually get smaller and smaller. This wave, radiation, gets bigger and bigger.
That's why we come into the physical to create. Because that, as you say, has got nothing to it, because it's just existence in a sense. But like when he comes into the physical vessel of the longer wave, which is our vessel, the earth and the water, then the fire and the air can do something with the fire in the air. The fire in the air is just existence without having the long wave, which is the earth and the water, to come and play within. Does that make sense?
Yeah, exactly. So
can you draw that for us?
We have two waves.
A visual to go on, please.
Yeah, so we have two waves, radiation waves and polarized, positive, negative, real waves. That's what I would call what people are thinking. Not a lot of people go into the magnetic world of scalar wave, of the longitudinal wave. I mean, the difference is the example of a rope, a tightrope. You're pulling a tightrope. That's a longitudinal wave. If you tug at that rope, instantly the other guy's going to get pulled. But if you loosen that and then just do that, it takes time for the message, the energy, to reach the end of the wave. It's transverse, and it gets weaker and weaker as it goes, right? So it's all inefficient. Electricity is very inefficient, as John Nowelski says. It's it's inferior. And Sri Yukteswar as well, in the Holy Science, says that he calls magnetism divine, and that when we would come into the knowledge of magnetism, we would pretty much be unlimited in what we can do, and we'll have full expression of magic and power.
Coming into the knowledge of magnetism is a bit like practicing the holy matrimony. It's coming into ourselves, and which is like the mini death, the orgasm within us, which reverberates within our vessel and eventually rises the 13th disciple, which is a nerve ending which supports us and heals us, right?
Yeah. This is why people are getting multiple sclerosis, dementia, Alzheimer's. It's a nervous problem. They've depleted their nervous energy. So I think it was Hira Ratan Manek, the Hindu solar gazer, who said, what was what we just talking about? Sorry.
The healing opportunity through coming into the magnetism and the knowledge of magnetism, and to practicing holy matrimony, the link between the two.
Yeah, no, I was going to quote something. There's something a bit later. It's probably not important, but before I got quoted this other guy, I was going to quote something about this process. But anyway, probably not important, unless you can remember what the very last point was. But the wave, so let's have a look at this, the difference between the waves. So if you've got a pond of water and you throw a pebble in there, that will be a pulse. So the wave is going to radiate out. In water, you'll see it on the surface, but in the air, a pulse in the air, which is what atoms are, they're just pulsating points of light. It will go radially in a global, in a spherical, all directions, you see. But in water, it's going to be on the surface, of course, but to illustrate it is going to be effective. So what you'll have is the wave is going out, and you see it's getting bigger and bigger exponentially, right? And that would be the magnetic wave radiating radially.
Like rippling out.
Well, the ripples are the effect of this, because the water obviously is creating resistance, all right? So what will happen here now is there will be a ripple, you see, and that ripple generates the wave. But as the wave goes out, it gets smaller and smaller, the electrical transverse wave, because it's resisting. It has to. When you push something, it's highly likely that it's going to lean towards one way, and then it corrects and goes the other way. It's like when you do fishtails on your car, they just correct. That's how the wave goes. It always goes back to the middle. It doesn't go way out there, but it just corrects, and just like fishtailing. So, but it's a diminishing wave, and it's always been known to be the devil's wave, because resistance means, Satan means resistance. And so as it goes along, you've got that sine wave that it produces, and that sine wave has all the information you need.
So this is every cell in our body is the sine wave. They're all atoms.
Yeah, because what an atom is, well, let's do that then. An atom is a incommensurable, non-specific, incommensurable point in counter space. What does that mean? Well, the information to cause this world, all the animals and all the different forms which come from seeds and multiply, according to Thomas H. Burgoyne, these are already in existence in the ether, in the transcendence, counter space. Okay? For instance, when you reboot your computer, you are pulling out information from a file which doesn't weigh anything. It's not physical. A full hard drive does not weigh more than an empty hard drive, the same way. So, but it's got a lot more information in it. And that information is in counter space, because you can't take those ones and zeros and say, there's my favorite picture that's on my computer. There's the zeros and ones that make up that. You can't do that. The computer is, through RAM, is how it interprets that and creates an image on the screen. And that's how spirit, soul, and body work. Spirit is the file, because it's not physical, it's spiritual. It's in counter space. It's not spatial. You can walk around with your computer and the information follows inside your hard drive. It doesn't stay, and that's how we are, and that's how atoms are. So
using that analogy,
would be the file. The soul would be the RAM, because that's what RAM means. Soul, the sun, Rama, Sri Rama, and the screen would be the body.
So Aries is the soul going into, because it's the RAM, no?
Yep. So what you've got here is the neutron of the atom. And then what, according to Walter Russell, is what a proton is this, right? Part of the torus field. It's the diverging centrifugal part of the torus field. Then it hits the equator and it goes dielectric, or rather the electron is now compressing and converging again, and the other side does the same, like a figure 8, and that's the Ouroboros, the serpent eating its tail. These lines are always eating their tails. They go round and round in loops. And so what you've got is, this is the neutron, the plane of inertia of the torus field. This here is the hyperbola, the hourglass in the middle. So there you can see good old Kronos hiding. That's what an atom is. It's a torus field. This is blue shift on top, and red shift is always down the bottom. Hence your torso, torus field, your throat chakra is blue, and your base chakra is red. So your torso knows about red shift, blue shift, because you are, and your green heart, this, the core of the neutron here, that is in your heart. Your heart is the green chakra, because red and blue shift make green. Green is an anagram for energy. Energy comes from the heart. And so
that is the zero coming together, right? Of the binary, the 1 and the 0 coming together to turn it on. It's like the om or the on, the 1 penetrating the 0.
Yeah, well, this is the pulsating part, which is mathematical. This is all about numbers, numbers and letters. This is the letters, the Tor, this is the creator, the actor, all these words that end in Tor, and bull, because the hyperbola has bull. This is the bull, Baal, God Baal in the center.
We are the Baal. And all of the letters are all of the different characters within our experience that are manifest within the plane. So
Yeah.
we play letters for each other. We play the different notes.
Yeah, well,
of the
the
different
Jews.
scales. We play the
Yeah,
different
well, the
notes
Jews say that. Yeah.
It's funny.
Well,
It's funny because the science has actually got humour to it. Like astrology's built on the 4 humours, right?
Yeah. So that's why we have a lot of words as well that end in bull, able, capable, reliable, stable, table, because this is the bull of creation, the hyperbola. So what were we talking about?
I was enjoying what you were talking about with regards to the different letters.
The letters.
Yes.
Okay, so the letters are feminine, and you can't hear numbers. So one doesn't have a sound. It's just one thing, right? But a letter always is accompanied by sound. So you see that the pulse has a masculine thing about it because it's inaudible. And God is audio, or dio, and video. Seeing and hearing is God. It's in the word. Okay. So numbers are all about quantities. Letters are all about qualities. Like you said, what did you say? We're acting on this theatre, which is heart and earth. Earth is heart, is theatre. So, like you said, we're expressing all these letters. Yes, the beautiful feminine letters which create sound waves with all their glorious curves. So the curve is also the cursive. Why? Because it's not talking about the woman's beautiful curves that can seduce a man. It's talking about the waveform. It has a curse to it. Sorry?
The theatrics of each other are so mesmerizing, we buy into them. A bit like how we get seduced by the curvaceous lines. We also get seduced by each other's beauty in the play because it's so real. The Maya is so real that this is where we learn through the longevity of time.
Yeah, that's why we fall in love. Because you don't climb into love. Yes, so you fall into love. So it's like a natural process. And fall comes from phallus, and
that's where we're heading now, right? Into the Libra, into full.
Yeah. So the fall, exactly. And so this is the phallus. PH steps in, or is able to. What's the word? But it's also the word that fits in with P and F. Okay, they are interchangeable. So this is the phallic, the obelisk. So it's masculine, you see, whereas this is the uterus, right? And see, there's the phallic going into the uterus, creating a new torso. And so this is what atoms are. So diverging light would be a proton, and then here it switches over to an electron. As Walter Russell says, there aren't really any protons or electrons. The only reason why you see a proton is when it's diverging, and then when it converges, it becomes an electron, and it compresses, and it goes back, it fuses. Here is fission, fusion, fission. Yeah, and so all of this is how this serpent makes the Ouroboros eating its own tail, is how all the atoms work. In fact, the Egyptians have the hourglass, you'll see the sun disk. Many times the winged sun disk has an actual hourglass.
Well, this looks like an angel.
Right.
This looks like an angel, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, it is. It is. Everything is this form.
And so
this
the penis inside the uterus, it looks like an angel because it's the tail coming into its own self to create more of itself, right?
Yeah.
The penis
exactly.
being the tail of the story. Like the funny thing is, as humans, we lose our tail because they're the sperm, right? That falls off as we go through the different cycles within the incubation of the self.
Yes, exactly. So the story of syncretism really is the path of ascension, not stagnancy and not descension. So essentially, we go back to what Samael calls the true religion, you know, before it was perverted by the Jesuits, and they started teaching, you know, against the seminaries and the mystery schools, and they started teaching, according to him, they started teaching the doctrine of the devil, the ejaculation, and hence all kinds of illnesses and, you know, neurosis and psychosis has, you know, afflicted humanity. They've kind of they can't seem to escape addictions or cravings, sense gratification. Nothing wrong with pleasure. Pleasure is very valuable, you know, but it should be holy pleasure. You know, it should be done in the right parameters for the individual's health's sake. You know, you can't just eat any food. You can't just have any kind of sex, you know, and not suffer consequences. You know, and to the extent that we apply ourselves and devote ourselves, the 3 Ds, diligence, devotion, and discipline, you know, you endure to the end and reap the rewards. I did. You know, I had 10 years toward the end there, especially around, you know, after I did my 62-day fast this year in Aries and Taurus. As soon as Taurus finished in Gemini, wow, you know, it got really hectic for me, and I was convinced that I would never this is how it gets to you. I would never, you know, be a non-itching guy. I would always have this skin itch, you know. I'm sensitive. I've had nerve damage. Who knows what kind of things, you know, I was thinking about that it could be. I tried all the protocols, nothing worked, so I was sort of like resigned. And then I went to a shamanic healer, and then I did the protocol of fenbenzidol, and both of those things, the healer cleansed and cleared a lot of entities from my field, you know, all the little holes in my Taurus field, all these little entities, you know, controlling various parts of my life and everyone's, really. So, yeah, I endured, you know.
It served the endurance that it's kind of served you. You had to go through the darkness to come out with the empowerment of knowing the dark back into the light, in a sense.
Yeah, I mean, I was doing all the things that I preach. I've been doing White Tantra since 2012. And so, you know, I could have easily thought to myself, no, why should I keep doing this? I'm not getting healthier. I was not looking good. And even people were saying to me, you know, with all your veganism and non-ejaculatory sex and all these things that you do, Santos, you seem to be struggling still. And I knew, I mean, I know I was, you know, but it didn't stop me. I didn't say, well, no, I'm going to eat a bit of bone broth. You know, everyone's saying a bit of bone broth will do you well, Santos. Well, look, here's me. I'm pretty happy, pretty healthy. You can tell when someone's not healthy, and you can tell that
you've got the video evidence of it.
Yeah. So
Anybody who's seen your journey, or if they haven't, they can go back and look at it and they can see that this transformation has taken place.
Yeah. So what people can take away from that, that's why I'm sharing these very personal things with the world, is that they can do it. If you don't let go of the good things you've been, you've discovered in your path, whether it be ground, taking your shoes off and walking on barefoot everywhere, or taking a walk every morning, or doing yoga, your 5 Tibetan rites every morning, whatever it is,
I saw a video
endurance.
where you did a tones. You did you said you could ask for the different planets, and you said them in maybe a Vedic or Indian kind of language, or the Vedic language. Incarnations, or not incarnations. So I'm getting the word right.
Yep.
Which they assimilate to do, re, mi, fa, re, mi, so, do, like the different tones of the planets, right? And they're the different chakra points and the different templates, the different seeds. So if you could, you're able to do that for us.
Well, the 7 vowels are pretty important for this process as well. So you've got a, e, I, o, and u. I had to think about that. So a, e, I, o. Now I'm very familiar with these 7 vowels because in Italian they are clear as day. The letter O in Italian has always 2 sounds, o and o. O. And the E, depending on the accent. If it's in Italian, you've got that's O. That's the acute accent. The grave accent going that way, that's O, almost like O. Okay. So, and the E is the same. That's A. No, sorry, that's E. That's A, like as in at. So you see how an E sounds like an A. So I'll do them again in order. You see, A, E, I, O, U. And that's how you say Aum, because you do the whole spectrum of vowels. So you go like this. I, Om, I, Om, I, Om.
So you raise the energy up, the Kundalini energy up from the sacral all the way up back to the top hemisphere.
Yes, and then there's another one starting with the root chakra, Lam, Lam, Lam. Then the next one is Vam, Vam. Then Ram, which is Ram, the Ram, the solar plexus. Then Yam, Yam, I am, in the heart. Then Hum, the throat chakra, where you hum. And then Om, and then the crown chakra is silence. So let's do it. Lam, Vam, Ram, Yam, Hum, Om, silence. And you can pitch it. Lam, Vam, Ram, Yam, Hum, Om. You can pace it. Lam, Vam. In modulation. Use modulation and you can get different effects. Lam, Vam, Ram, Yam, Hum, Om, Lam. When I walk in the mornings, I do one for each step, and then the 7th step is silent. So it'll be like Lam, Vam, Ram, Yam, Hum, Om, Lam, Vam, Ram, Yam, Hum, Om, Lam, Vam, Ram, Yam, Hum, Om, Lam, Vam, Ram, Yam, Hum, Om. So that the voice will hit the frequency, the sound will hit the chakra, and then it'll just go up. And what you're doing is you're walking and you're raising. You're going forward and you're going up. Lam bam ram yam hum om. Lam bam ram yam hum om. So those are the names of the chakras in Sanskrit, and those are the sounds which will make them reverberate, because resonance and reverberation are the makers of the visual world. First is pulse, radiation, vibration, resonance. Reverberation, resonance. So it's all energy and frequencies and vibration, as Tesla said. I'm just going to tend to something, just pitch in.
Cool. Wow. So that's a bit like the staircase to heaven, in a sense. When we're raising our vibration and atoning for the day, that's a really good meditational practice to awaken ourselves to a more higher vibration within ourselves. And you can make it a play. You can make it joyous by changing how we express that to ourselves. So we ensure that we're having fun and it's not mundane. But obviously you might start out like, oh, I'm tired. When we start doing those mantras, you might start out thinking, oh, it's just another day. But when you play with them, you actually we're taking the opportunity so that we can actually find ourselves in a much more joyous state of being by the time we reach a few cycles of that mantra, which is obviously very beneficial for our health and for our mentality, and an absolute very beneficial practice for us to embark on. I will certainly be practicing that.
Yeah, look, all these practices are beneficial. It's about getting back in resonance with your magnetic field. In the mornings, what I do, if I don't catch the mornings, I'll do it any time. I raise my palms to the sun, because as Akhenaten did and taught us, to raise your palms, because palm is an anagram for lamp, and the sun is the Lamb of God. It's the lamp. You see, in Revelation, it says 21, it says, and the city shall not need a sun, for the Lamb shall be its lamp. And so lamb is B, has a B in it. B and P are interchangeable. So lamb becomes Baal. Can you see the word Baal in lamb? It's the hyperbola. The sun is a hyperbola. It creates a torus field around it, magnetic. And so what you're looking at is the heart of the sun. Soul means soul. The soul is the heart. And so you're seeing it beat. It pulsates. Pierluigi Gina says the sun has a heart in it, and it beats, right?
That's
so that beat,
right?
That's a number. You can't hear it. It does create waves, which has sound, but we can't even hear those. The sun is silent to us, and yet it's making this massive reverberation throughout the universe. It's the creator. See that? Kronos, Rhea, and Tor, Jupiter, their sun, make the word creator, Kronos, Rhea, and Tor. So Rhea means to radiate. Radharani means radiate. The soul radiates. You never say when you meet a warm person that, oh, they were so pleasant because their soul was their heart was vibrating. No, the mind vibrates, creates thought waves. The heart radiates. You always say that about hearts. Oh, they were radiating today. Oh, that was very nice to see them. Very healthy.
Santos? Maybe there was a connection error here. Radiating love. We'll stick with the recording, see if this continues here. Continues forth.
Spiritually. It's the counterpart. Hello?
Hey, I got disconnected, it would seem. I'm
Oh,
back. I'm back.
okay. We're still here.
Yeah, we're still here.
Oh, okay.
We're
Nice.
radiating love.
What was your question? What was the question before that? That
And we were just talking about radiating and being radiant,
yeah.
and the sun
So
radiating.
yeah, the sun is Rama and it's Ram and it's creating the theatre and it's getting the information from counter space where we are in our wholeness. So if we're going to be creating a beautiful, pure temple, it's going to be a beautiful process. It's very enjoyable. For me, it's been very satisfying in the last 3 months that I've regained my health. I'm about to finish the protocol in next week. It'll be over. And I haven't itched since and been sleeping really well. So
I've got some
I'm excited.
questions about what you just said, where we are in wholeness. So are we projecting from here, from another, have we got another body, would you suggest? And that might seem like a very esoteric or interesting question. Would you say that it is likely that we have, this is an avatar, and we're projecting into this avatar from another position outside of this space, in counter space, you say?
Yeah, our file, which is being improved on we're improving our file, but when we die, we go back with the improvements and the file is still there in counter space, just like your computer. Every day you open the file, you improve it, goes back to sleep, you resurrect it, it reincarnates, you work on it, you do all your good holy works. So what we're doing is we're having an exciting journey, the cycle of the soul's transmigration. We're shedding unneeded stuff that doesn't work anymore, materialisms, addictions. We're expanding. We're coming into a new exciting place. And for me, it's been really rewarding because the 10 years that I've had have been absolute abject hell. And especially the last 7 years, since September, the 28th of September, actually, of 2012, when my K2 Mahadasha began, and it's called the 7-year curse, which is about to end in 11 days. In 11 days,
that's
my Venus. Yeah, and so
K2 is what
Venus brings health.
Remove, though. I had a real a thing come through there. So K2 is what we use to remove things, to clear from the Akashic records, because K2 is like the tail of the body, the elephant that never forgets, Ganesha. And so you, as an Aries, have been a warrior, as the person who took the responsibility to heal this for the consciousness of all things, not just for you, but for existence. You're like, I'm going to be a leader in finding that we can purge this type of parasite, and then it can all ripple out through your message, as you are you're the proof in the pudding that it is able to be purged. And so you are the messenger of rippling it out, as you were the warrior who actually identified with the situation through your 7 years of your K2 period, right? And now you're moving beyond that in 11 days. Do you know what your next period is going to be? What you're ruling, what the planet or the section that you're going to be moving into?
Venus Mahadasha, which means she'll rule for 20 years, but the first 3 years will be Venus Subdasha. So it'll be Venus Mahadasha for 20 years, and then the 9 different planets, starting from Venus and going in their order. It's always Jupiter, Saturn, followed by Mercury, followed by K2. Those are the ones I was born in Jupiter. I got 13 years of Jupiter. Then I had 18 years of Saturn. When my son was born, I went into Mercury. When 2012 came, I went into Cato, absolutely smashed and cursed, almost like I was headless, because the dragon's tail is headless. I can see all my headless behavior and just all the trouble it caused for me. And now Venus brings leisure, pleasure, love, and then all her subdashas would be the 7 of the Navagraha, which would be Surya, Chandraya, in order, starting from the sun, Surya, then the moon, going along the days of the week. You've got Surya Chandraya, Mangalaya, Buddhaya, Guru, Shukra, Shanicharaya, Rahave, Ketave. So they put Rahu and Ketu at the end, but you've got Surya Sun, Chandraya Moon, Mangalaya Mars, Buddha Mercury, Guru is Jupiter, Shukra, the sweet, sugary Shukra, Venus, and Shanicharaya is Saturn. So when you go through all those in their order, after Venus, I think I come into my Sun period.
How many years of Venus do you have?
Yeah, 20 years of Venus.
Brilliant. Can you tell me what mine is? I think, because if I look at my program here, my astrology program, it's called the Firdaria. Is that right? Firdaria. Is that something different? Because that's the
spell that again.
Firdaria. This is, I know that there's various different ways of cutting up what planets of our sections, what eras we're going through in this experience. And I've looked at it through this program, and it says that I am currently in a section of Mars at the moment. But I would like to, I actually haven't got my chart up. So I was looking at it, not relevant there.
I'll find the website for you, and I'll send it to you in a link how you can work it out. In fact, I might make it available. Oh no, here we go again. No, but you can work it out. I did. There's an article I posted about my
I'll share my
7-year curve.
How about this? I'll show you.
No, it's too much. It's too much bother for now, brother. I want to keep it simple.
It does say that it says that I'm on a Mars time until December this year, and then I'm Mars Sun. I will be Mars until 2024. I'll just go through all of the different planets with Mars until 2024, which started last Christmas on December 2018. But I don't know if this is the same as what you're talking about. I'm assuming it is.
Yeah, I don't know. So, but I'll give you that link. But for the listeners, you can go to a post that I did back in May. Go back to a post I did in May, and you'll see I did just a quick post there about my 7-year hell, which began in September. And I remember getting a call from my landlord, my friend. He called and said, "You've got a month to get out. My mother needs a place to stay, and this is all I can do. I have to help my mother." And I've been there for 12 years. I sold my house next door, the only house I've ever bought in my life, with my first marriage, where I got divorced. I sold that, and I needed a place to stay. And my next door neighbour gave me a place for 12 years. Over the road in the cul-de-sac was my mother, and my sister was living there as well. And the family would always come to this cul-de-sac. It was beautiful. And then all of a sudden, 2012, get this call. So I had to move to my brother's house, then to my niece's Sonia's house. Then I went to my brother Peter's house, then my mother's, then my first wife's. And here I am with my second wife, living with my first wife. This is all in 2013, 2014. Then I had the jail in 2014, and the jail in 2015. I've had to remove all my back teeth. They were all root canals, and 2 of them nearly killed me. My face was like this, like the Elephant Man. And I went to the dentist, and he said, the toxicity you would have got from that over the years is untold. And he said, you were lucky you came to me. You could have just died any moment. And that happened twice, the same dentist, where he removed 2 toxic root canals in the first instance and 2 on the other side in the second instance in 2017. So let me tell you, when K2 hits, oh, by the way, I didn't finish the link to the website where you can calculate your Mahadasha is in that article that I wrote. May or June. You don't have to scroll far because I haven't been posting much on Facebook.
On Facebook,
I've been, yeah, on Facebook, but that's just for the listeners. You know, I'll send you the link later. Cool. So, but I'm now looking forward to the 3 years of the Venus Mahadasha, and I feel it. I can feel the cusp of it. I know I'm in the cusp, and I know because the feeling is of the Venetian qualities, to be blessed. I've been blessed with a place to stay here in California with Jamie Lee, who's another great truther. His channel's called A Plain Truth. I'm downstairs here in my bedroom, and they're upstairs he's got a ranch. He's got pears and apples and all kinds of things growing. It's beautiful. I've been blessed. Now that's Venus coming in, you know. I've got so many good friends. I had a couple come from Utah to spend 5 days with me. I've had another sister who's come here, Mari, to see me. And we've been hanging out for 2 weeks, and with Jamie, and we're all having a beautiful time. I've got Venus energy in that I'm in resting. Venus is leisure. I'm enjoying my food. I'm enjoying my conversations. That's pleasure and leisure. So I'm getting all of the Venetian things. And I have love, self-love. Venus brings love to you, brings love to your life, because everyone will love you when you love yourself, you know. So
that's brilliant.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this, brother. I'm sharing this with people because we all need hope, you know. We all need something to look forward to. We can have glorious days. We can have everlasting glory should we choose it, you know. We can be gods, fully restored with great powers, you know. We can practice magic. We can be healthy. I'm very happy. I'm very healthy, apart from that other stuff that happened. I don't have any health issues at all right now. I've never had any disease. I've had syndromes. I'm at 56. I feel really, you know, really happy. I don't have arthritis or rheumatism or, you know,
so is this
bronchitis.
With your second Saturn return, this coincides with that, is it?
It's coming up in 2 years when Saturn returns to Aquarius. Capricorn's going to be, it'll enter properly on the solstice of next year, when it's conjunct with Jupiter, ushering in the Aquarian age.
But do you know what?
That is the same.
Instantaneously, I would say for you that's you being like given the recognition that you deserve to be this international teacher, which you already are, but to be put in a position to really continue to share your syncretism in a very prestigious manner. You know, Saturn being the manor house and Jupiter being the guru, you having that on your Saturn return in Aquarius, it's giving you the opportunity to network and share your gifts at a greater level.
Yeah. And my Saturn's conjunct Venus. So Venus is where your love is. And my love is with Aquarius, Aquarian themes. And my accomplishments, Saturn's accomplishments will be Aquarian, you know. My love for humanity. Obviously, as I was saying before, why did I become a Jehovah's Witness at the age of 19 again, after enjoying the world and all its great things? Well, I wanted to save people, serve God, save myself. I wanted to do the right thing. So that hasn't changed. And so, you know, endurance brings fruits that you don't expect even. I've received some blessings that I never expected. Some great blessings have come my way and that I've never expected, you know. They just turned up, and that's how it works. When you're, you know, projecting and manifesting, you will get that. You will get that. So if we manifest health and happiness, we'll bump into it. eventually. We have to endurance. He who endures to the end will be saved.
That's very powerful, and it's good to see as you experienced that, what obviously was not a joy at the time, but to see that it's been really worthwhile. As you say, the key word being endurance there. I was very fortunate and excited to see somebody upload a video of you, Santos, on Instagram. I mean, that was a lovely note to leave this on, but I would just like to get your take on this. There's footage of you working in, I'm assuming it was Australia, of you talking outside a courthouse about the birth certificate. And you were talking about how we actually have the opportunity to reinstate ourselves beyond being a straw man owned by the bank system or the government, if you will, and find that we can get this reinstation of our sovereignty by claiming another certificate. I just wondered if you were able to remark on that experience and explain what was going on.
Well, that part of my life is still with me, and it is part of the process that actually needs to be attended to. Does someone other than God and yourself have right to your property, which is your body, which is your soul and your spirit? Can a corporate name entity operating outside of God's natural law, in positive law created by man, can it inhibit your ascension process? And it can. This is why Peter said we must obey God rather than men, St. Peter, because there are man's laws and there are God's laws. So man's laws can be good, you know. Don't litter. It doesn't have to be a law, but there are practical and good laws. Law is Lord, the Lord, you see. And so that's why we must be subject to the higher laws, natural laws. And it is a part of the process. And Jesus teaches to be two things. There's two archetypes of Jesus in the Bible. One is the priest and one is the king. Jesus teaches us how to be a king and priest for 1,000 years with him. That means to become a sovereign and to be in total control and ownership of your vessel here on earth, as well as spiritual and soul, your religion, your practices, your faith, all of those things, they are yours. And Jesus teaches that. That's why he walks on the waters. He walks on the waters because they are maritime. He's showing you that he is above the maritime water. At first, he was in the ship with his disciples who were all sleeping. Why were they on the citizenship sleeping? Because that's what they tell you, that if you are a citizen, you are asleep, non compos mentis, lost at sea. So he walked on the waters and left them sleeping. But Peter woke up and he said, "Oh, Lord, can I also walk on the water with you?" And Jesus says, "Yes, you can." So Peter started walking on the waters. And so, but eventually he looked around and he had doubt. And Jesus says, "You have little faith." You see, if you had kept your faith strong, you would have stayed on the waters, maritime waters, and obeyed God rather than men. But Peter, of course, who denied Jesus 3 times, he was always going to be, Peter means stone, and Saturn, and Jupiter is the stone, the tone of the Taurus field. So it's fallible, you see. He was showing the human nature, that it will fall into the sea if we're not careful. We don't guard our lives. we can start sinking. Like we can look around like the 5 foolish virgins. You know, they didn't bring enough oil in their receptacles. So they were squandering their Christic oils. They didn't respect the Christ. So they looked around and they said, well, we better go off and get some more oil. And they missed out, you see. So they thought they were on the path, but they looked around like the wife of Lot. And then they had to catch up. And then when they did catch up and they had all the oil in there, the 5 wise virgins who brought oil and extra receptacles so they didn't have to go buy more oil, the bridegroom came out at an unknown hour and said, come and be married. Well, this is the alchemical marriage, Christian marriage in Rosicrucianism as well. It's the marriage of the Lamb, you see, the cerebram. And so this is what I say to people who also are not so disciplined on the path and diligent and devoted, that they may be surprised that the fruits of all of their work may not give them the right currency to get where they want to go, where they think they're going. So that's why endurance is all about salvation and endurance. So when you go to another country, you need the currency of that country. George Carey uses this analogy with the oils. When you get there, when Christ knocks on the door and says, come and have an evening meal, if you're not ready and you don't have enough oil in your body, Christic oils, then you won't have the marriage process, you know. So the results can be like the wife of Lot. So, and I never, ever be like the churchgoers who say once saved, always saved. I will be saved, but I never, ever take it for granted that it's a guarantee and that I won't fall from the path, because even the chosen ones will fall in the dark days of the end. As Jesus said, the devil will be like a roaring lion seeking to deceive even the chosen ones. Not just, he's not happy with, you see, in war, you're not happy with just the civilian captives, and that you want the colonel, you know. You want to destroy the whole army, you know. So Satan, evil is not content with its evil that it has captured. You know, it wants to get, like the Saviour is not happy with one lost lamb. You see, he has 100 sheep, but one gets lost and his heart starts beating. He looks for that lamb, you know, he wants his little flock all together. So, but the devil is destroying, you see. And causing people through false religion to go down the wrong process. For instance, Christians, churchgoers, are waiting for Jesus to return. And yet the return of Christ is the return of your own Christ consciousness. You know, that's why Jesus says, don't go looking in the east or in the west. It won't be coming with striking observableness. You know, the kingdom of God is within. And St. Paul says in Colossians 1:27, I share this sacred secret with you of the Christ within, the Christ that dwells in you. You see, this is why a lot of people don't like St. Paul, because he never spoke of a historical Christ. But in St. Peter's, it historicizes, if that's a word, Christ, which is fine, because you can do that about Jesus, but you cannot materialize Christ. Christ is spirit, Jesus is soul. Hence in Matthew chapter 23, Jesus is speaking there to his disciples and he says, do not be calling anyone your teacher here on earth, for one is your teacher, the Christ. So why was Jesus talking about Christ in the third person? Because it is a third person. Jesus is the Son of God. It's the Son of Christ. Christ is Chronos, God. And so, and it's the soul which you can lose. You cannot lose your spirit. The spirit returns to its source, but the soul may not. it may be unworthy, unprepared for its return. And what will happen in that case is that your blueprint, yourself at the source will not have been proved, but you will get another chance, of course. And this is why a lot of people don't care to do good, like the elite people, the satanic people, because they know they'll be sent somewhere, and wherever they go, they'll wreak havoc and have their pleasures, which are, of the dark. So, and they will remain in Tartarus in that condition, because hell is a condition, you see. When you choose the broad and spacious road, it leads to everlasting destruction. When you get on the tight and cramped and difficult road of salvation, you have you have trials. It's the world will be against you. This world, you'll have to kick against the goads, or you'll have to rather, you'll have to, as Plato said, difficult a task it is to arrive at the knowledge of God and truth, and dangerous it is to publish.
So you say that it's funny, we like to share the good words and the good knowledge, but do you find that is you don't want to buy into fear and to not do the good work, but to show up and show up and show up and do the due diligence can put you in the crosshairs of those people that want to limit that, right? Because you would say that you've been a targeted person, but now you're being rewarded for your due diligence, in a sense, through your experience, because you're getting your rites of passage, your right of way, because you've stuck to the thin and tight road, if you would.
Well, this is simply what the whole Jesus story is. It's about the ordeals that we have to go through, the 33 degrees of ascension up the spine, the adversaries, the setbacks, the bad luck. This is all, you see, toward the end of the ministry of the life, you come to the Garden of Gethsemane, and then you come to the Mount of Olives, and then you are brought to the high priest, then to the Roman Pontius Pilate, and he washes his hands, and then you get crucified, and then you ascend. This is all part of the alchemical process of the body, you see, the 12 labors of Hercules. So when you go through those 33 degrees, you bring the Christ fluid up to the cranium where you get crucified, and it's an ordeal. The Garden of Gethsemane is where you are bearing the nails of dematerializing yourself through the crucifixion process and turning away from the lower sensation world, and now going into transcendental sensations. You now activate what Steiner called the super senses, and everything transcendentalizes. Your food intake, your sexual behavior, it becomes transcendental. So rather than having lustful pleasure, you have loving pleasure. You invert, everything changes, and it heals you, it restores you, it rejuvenates you, it inspires you, and it re-empowers you. You
could even say it's a bit like a pole shift, right? We saw maybe that the pole shift would be propagated to be something that would happen on a globe, and the magnetic north would change. But instead of being fixated on physical joys and physical pleasures and all of the riches and the things that are made here for us to purchase on, what we do is we get purchase on the value of our own soul, of our own spirit within us. And so we shift from our focus being outside into our focus being within. And that's a part of the Saturnian journey that we get taught through time.
Yes. Yep. So Saturn will be the Grim Reaper, in that he is the black light that we can go back to. Whatever is, this is why he eats his children, because whatever is born in time will die in time. It's a transient temporal world. It's unstable. And so we don't put our treasures in this world. We put our treasures in the next world, which is eternal, which is our true home. We all want to go back home. We have a spiritual craving to return back home to balance, and to be full and complete and restored, remembered.
Would you
We want
suggest
to be...
that you have any remarks on the 144,000 and how that the number of in the Bible, and it's a very prestigious number that comes up in a lot of things. I know some people that I've spoken to before talk about it a lot. And so you were talking about returning home. I wondered if that can relate to anything that you have to share upon, and before I let you continue with your day, because it's been a very valuable conversation and lots to reflect upon, and I don't want to take too much of your energy, but I would love to know anything that you have to share on the 144,000 and what that means to our experience.
Okay, well, in Revelation 14, it speaks of the 144,000 who are standing upon Mount Zion with the Lamb of God, singing a new song. Well, that's talking about arriving at the 1,000-petaled lotus, the crown chakra. The crown chakra has 1,000 petals. The bottom chakra has 4. When you count all the numbers of the petals to the 6th chakra, you get 144 petals. 1,000 on the top, 144 petals is the number of all the petals of the chakras, the other 6 chakras. 4, 6, 10, 12, 16, and 96 add up to 144. When you multiply that by 1,000, you will reach the crown chakra, and you will be standing upon Mount Zion, your temple, your spinal column, with 33 steps to it. And Atlas is the top bone, which is making your head pivot. And so you will arrive at the crown chakra, and you'll be standing there with the Lamb of God. The Lamb of God is the cerebrum, the cerebran. The ram is the lamb, and it is Sarah Abram. And it's the heavens. Head is heaven heaved up in the body. And when you reach that, you're singing a new song with the lamb. You've done the process. You've arrived at the alchemical marriage. You can marry the lamb now. You can be married to Krishna. And so, which is your higher self in its full capacity, not its, which you already are. You already are Christ-like, illuminated to some extent, but not to its fullest until you do the process. And then you'll be singing a new song. And it's like in the mystery schools, they give you a pebble, a white pebble with a new name on it. And that name was always Jesus in the Middle East, until they killed Jesus by shutting down that Essene mystery school. It was the Essenes, and Essa means Jesus.
That's a bit that's a bit like the story you mentioned earlier. Like they killed Jesus, they killed the story. They killed the penis was cut off from the tree. Venus was taken away, created from Uranus. It's a bit like we were like, I also see it like as we were both genders back then. Maybe we weren't divided into separate gender. We weren't given the labels of man and female. does that relate to the mystery schools? We weren't divided, and so we weren't conquered.
Yeah, yeah. It was, they were teaching young men about semen retention, you know, saving, not spreading, not squandering. So, and they were teaching them how they would use it to supply the nutrients, materials to produce this, what they call, it's called the Christ nerve, and that would be it. It's developed along with the 12 cranial nerves, and then once you have this, you never lose your connection to what they call the Akashic records, or to access all of knowledge that is able to in the universe. So the mystery schools were teaching people how to do this process. They weren't teaching celibacy. Celibacy came through the through the dark side,
Yeah,
to
the Dark
seduce
Ages.
people.
The different centuries that we've been through, the 700 years and plus, more recently. So I've seen a painting of like the last of one of the suppers of all of the disciples sat together, and with Jesus at the head of the table, and it actually relates to the nerve endings inside of the brain. That it looks like the actual nerve endings depicted as well. I've seen an artistic representation, and that shows the disciples as the nerve endings with the 13th one at the end, actually inside of our head.
Yeah. So this is our calling, you know. This is why we've been called and chosen. We are of the chosen, you know, because we're on the path. So
would you say that now that actually this is coming around, that we're having this conjunction happening in Capricorn, and then we got the conjunction which is happening on your Saturn return of Jupiter and Saturn in Aquarius at the end of next year, which is in about 16 months time from now? This is a bit more like the reinstation of the mystery school tradition on a more public level, where the information is being shared and propagated and practiced, so that in 12 years' time, maybe, if people start practicing the holy matrimony now, they can access this greater experience, and we can actually start to see a dawning again of what would be a golden age of Saturn eventually.
Yeah, well, that's why I'm doing what I do. I'm trying to facilitate and enable that. I want to start a mystery school. I want an academy, you know. I want to do a documentary. And I want to do a website, you know, the best astrological website that ever was, and it's all in here. You know, I need help, I need people. And I'll have to go soon, very soon. So I'd like to finish with that, actually, to encourage people out there. I'm going to be in America in the United States till the 6th of November. I'll be doing a presentation in San Francisco in 3 days' time on the 21st. It'll be all day long from 10 till 6. Then I'm going to drive. I'm not going to fly. I'm actually going to drive to Portland, Oregon, 10-hour drive. I want to see the countryside rather than being radiated in an airport. And I'm going to do a presentation there on the 29th in Portland. Then I will be doing one in Eugene, then Montague. Then I'll be back here in Philo, California, around about the 5th of October.
Where are you going? Where are you going in November?
Yeah, good one. Yeah, then I'll be here for 1 more month, and I'll be probably doing a presentation in Sacramento and Redding. And then that's about it. So please be aware of that. I'll be posting that on Facebook. Then in November, I'll go to Costa Rica. I'll be there for 10 days in the north, Santa Cruz, at an awakened community. It's on the beach. They've got cabins. I'll be staying there with Enrique, who has invited me to stay there. So to all the people who follow syncretism in Costa Rica, if you want to catch up, I'll be up there in the north on the Pacific coast. Now, after that, I've got a presentation in Cancun in Mexico. I think that will be a long one too, like all afternoon, and there will be other presenters there. It's going to be a big one on the 21st of November. I'll be hanging around Mexico doing a little bit of reconnaissance because I want to see what it's like to live there, because I've been told it's a great place to live down there. And a lot of expatriate Americans and a lot of people are there, you know, hanging out. And so I'm going to check that out. Then I'll probably be there for a few weeks, and then Puerto Rico for a presentation. And then I'll probably come back to California or Kentucky, and then do some presentations on the East Coast. Before I finally end up, I want to go to Europe and probably stay in Canary Islands or Sardinia, France. I don't know. I have no idea right now, because I'm here now and I'm going to concentrate on here. And I know I've got a lot of work to do, and I'm really absolutely ready and inspired. I've got some great syncretism and presentations to share that I haven't released yet. And I've got better delivery ways of making syncretism more succinct and more understandable and
That's
assimilable.
Really exciting for you, just for your personal journey, and for anybody who has the opportunity to meet you and witness your presentations in person. I do encourage and implore anybody around those areas who gets wind of this video, through this video, or to go and to attend your presentations. Will you be filming any of them and releasing them on your channel, as you have done before as well?
Yes.
Yeah, well, I look forward to that, and I would love to obviously meet you at some point along that journey. It sounds really exciting to be a part of, yeah, really excited to see that the riches will be spreading out, the very valuable knowledge. Thank you for doing what you do and all of the contributions that you've made so far. I'll be grateful to hear you performing some of your music at some of these events as well along the way, because it's all great.
Well, this is possible. In fact, I might be with the presentation in Oregon for the listeners. I'll be with Elijah Ray. Elijah Ray has traveled the world for about 16 years. I think he's now settling in Oregon. He and his partner do healing music. And he also is very into everything geocentric cosmology, veganism. I've spoken to him. We're going to do a presentation together. So check out Elijah Ray on YouTube and check out his beautiful music. This guy is, a gem, and he's a philosopher. He's a pather. And I'll probably, if my fingers are ready, I've been out of action for 6 months. My nails haven't been very good at all, and I haven't been able to play. And I just started again here in California, exercising every day, or doing, scales and finger work, and I'm halfway there. So if I get my technique up where it should be, I might be doing something with Elijah. So come and check us out at Oregon, folks. I'll be uploading this on my channel too as soon as you get yours up, Philip, as well.
I'm going to upload this and have it up there for this time tomorrow. So yeah, it won't be long at all. And I'll put all your links below. But thank you so much for your energy today, Santos. You've been a real great contributor. I just want to say and close to everybody watching this, we are the centre. This is our responsibility to self, to heal. It's in the proof in the pudding. We've got the knowledge to do so. And so it is our gift to self to work with this energy. So thank you for contributing to yourself. Thank you for showing up. And we'll speak to you again real soon. Anything to say close, Santos?
Yeah, look, check check my Facebook page. I'll be posting everything that I need to about where you can catch a presentation and what my travels. I'll be posting soon about going to Costa Rica and Mexico too, because we want to get numbers down there as well. So yeah, go to my YouTube channel and stay close to my Facebook page rather than sending me private messages asking me, you know, all these details and what my schedule is and everything like that. It gets very hectic. And at the moment, I'm having trouble with my outbox. I can't send. My computer screen broke, cost me $700 to fix in San Francisco. K2 is still having a bite at me. I'm still having a little bit of K2. But and since they brought it back to me, I'm having troubles. All my configured information is being changed, passwords and things, and it's been hectic.
You'll get there. You'll get there. I've got good faith in this. And so
yeah, anyway, go on.
All is well. I just want to say, for as soon as this is going on your channel as well, if people wish to contact me, my website is unifyingperspectives.net. I'm here to hold space through therapeutic consultation with your astrology natal chart, and I'll be uploading some teachings on the polarities of each of the 6 polarities real soon. So I'm always here to connect. Other than that, thank you for liking and sharing this video with the people that you feel will resonate. Thank you again to Santos Bonacci, you absolute hero and legend, and we'll see you real soon.